And why? How did you start? Where did this come from? What was the first thing that said, I need to do this?
Well, is this on? Can you guys hear me?
No.
Yeah, we'll just share. We'll just share.
Sure, okay, that's fine.
Sharing is fair.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, basically, I mean, I've been, you know, a big fan of ASCO for a while, and so, you know, I've kind of talked about this, but essentially, I kind of grew up around the ethos of the Chicano movement. People in my family were involved in sort of, you know, the cultural sort of transition that was happening, you know, in the 60s and so on. And so I had that as part of my background, but I was always interested in international film and avant-garde art. And like I grew up loving Gael and Diego, and they were like my heroes because they were doing these really cool films, but those were in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw ASCO's work, and that was like really the first time I saw these interests that I had in the Chicano movement from my family and like avant-garde art and converge. And it had a big impact on me because it was the first time for me here in the US seeing something where I could really see myself and sort of felt really liberated and inspired. And I was really intrigued by the idea of this name ASCO and wanted to kind of go down the rabbit hole. And I talked about it being a little bit like sometimes when you want to make a film, it's kind of like when you meet somebody and you fall in love. It's a little mysterious or ambiguous in a way because you can try to explain it, but why that person and why such lengths? It's sort of crazy, you know what I mean? And I felt that way about these guys, and it was pretty much done in my stomach pretty quickly, and that was just how, and you know, but the why made total sense to me because their work's so incredible. I knew it had a big influence. I knew the film would allow us to break form and to do something really active and innovative, and I could see the parallels between what they were going through and what we're going through today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Harry, I want to ask you, so first of all, I don't know if you got the inside joke, but ASCO is, well, in a way it means nauseous, nausea, but it's also, I never put those two words together because ASCO just was a feeling, right? It said, me da asco. And you can't say, me da asco. It always comes with that, right? A lot of, right? But for me, the ASCO was this feeling of that, you know, the bubbles and that like throat tightening, right? It was this very visceral, physical reaction, right? And so it is a joke, right, in a way. But if you could talk about this idea of the name and how it maybe pushed this, so not grotesque, but in a way it was this thing that was caused fear, or I don't know. I'll let you answer. Tell us about this name.
Actually, the name ASCO was something that emanated from even an earlier moment in time for our youth. We all grew up in the 1950s and the 1960s. We had Richard Nixon, who created Operation Wetback. And Richard Nixon would show up in East LA and everyone hated him, but he hated Mexicans more than we hated him. And so he was actually responsible, sort of the triggering mechanism of what's happened here in Chicago just in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And it's kind of growing hatred. And initially the ASCO term was to quite literally throw it back at you in a way, but again, it was not a negative reaction. It was again an absurd response to true hatred, and the only way to respond to true hatred is to ensure that you still love yourself, your community, and you respond with art and not violence.
We'll talk about today in a minute. That is profound. I think so many of us, especially here in Chicago, are feeling lots of things, but we'll get there in a minute. Patsy, when I think about the movie and think about what I saw, You know, there were so many words that came up, like fearless, right? I think maybe weird, misunderstood. But I also thought about one of the interesting things for me is like when I saw the movie, I saw like in the late 80s, I'm glad someone in the movie they said new wave. Like I was thinking new wave, I was thinking punk. In San Antonio, when my sister went to college, she was in the new wave scene, and also the drag scene in San Antonio or Houston, right? And I was thinking about, when I saw your faces in 1969, 1970, 71, 72, I said they were already doing that, right? And it was so fascinating to see how you, right, like the things that we have seen over and over and over again, and generations to come later, you had already done it. And you know, you see young people in schools and they're gonna be the weird one. And I opened the art school here and all the kids are weird in art school. And I kept thinking to myself, been there, done that, right? We've all seen it before. But what I find fascinating is how, in a way, you all were the beginning of that. And to see it, to see it manifest in so many ways, right? What's it like to see that and to see what's happening today and comparing to where you were at the beginning?
You mean
Patssi.
with the youth too? Is this
Yeah,
something-
or just just seeing like this full circle, right, of what you were doing that was so brave, and then now today, where people still feel that bravery, but for you it was something. It was you all were at the very beginning of it, you know.
Well, I can't really address about what's going on today with the youth. I can only talk about my own experience. So for me, first of all, I want to address the word ASCO. For me, a lot of things around me gave me ASCO. What was going on in the community, the racism, the bad school system, never seeing yourself in a positive manner in the paper or in television or movies. So for me, that's what gave me ASCO. And I couldn't, as a young person, I couldn't just sit around and accept what was going on. I had to respond to it. I mean, I remember at times I used to think, well, I don't have to care about any of this, but I really did. And this thing about being new wave that never entered my mind. What my objective was to try to bring a different image of what it was to be a Chicana, or a Chicana. I never saw a glamorous, positive image of a Chicano or Chicana anywhere. So I set out to try to reinvent myself and present a different image.
And I think